debate. intelligencesquared.com.
So who would like to kick us off? That gentleman there on the right-hand side. Yes, sir. And if you put your hands up so I can see you as well for the next round.
Thank you very much. It just struck me that nobody talked about feeling and the experience of the public in front of a work of art. And in fact, the first speaker started by saying, well, the market is everywhere. And you know, if you are for the motion, aren't you saying that you can price every feeling, and that feeling is being priced and experience is being priced? And isn't that what's dangerous in being for the motion?
Thank you. Gentleman right, a bit further back to the right. Yes.
Hi, my question is to Matthew. In your entertaining speech, you tried to personify the market. You talked about what the market wants, or the way the market thinks. But I'd put to you that the market doesn't want or think anything. The market's merely the aggregation of demand at any single point in time. And as such, it must be the best measure of people's perception of that art, because it's merely the aggregation.
Brilliant. Okay, and we'll just take one more. The lady over there to the front here, her name's Melanie. I know.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask the people who are speaking against the motion, is there not an argument that it's just snobbery to say that the market for art is the only market that shouldn't respond simply to price and demand for desirability, which therefore equates to quality? Is money arguably more democratic than education?
Who wants to take that? Kenny, do you want to have a pop at that? It's snobbery on your behalf.
I think it's reverse snobbery. I mean, it's taking an opposite position to say that there's something besides the collective consensus that something's good because it's fetched a high price, like a 26-year-old kid. I would say that the market it's the opposite of snobbery. A snob says that's a special thing I wanted hanging on my wall because it has the imprimatur of making a fortune, when what is it but another form of abstraction that we've seen for the last 50 or 75 years, rehashed in another color.
And Matt, I'll direct the question about personifying the market. Who is this market, and is he not inferior to, is he not an aggregated source of prices and therefore a sort of knowledgeable chap?
No more knowledgeable than any other aggregates whose business is knowledge. It's just that the market's aim is not knowledge, but it's not really knowledge about art. It's knowledge about the market. If it were knowledge about art, it would be very stumbling. It wouldn't be quite so super efficient and the object of such celebration as the three speakers have portrayed it to be tonight. When Greenberg was writing about Pollock, he didn't say, here's an artist who's going to be a market hit. He said, here's an artist who's very good. And he tried to find historical arguments and aesthetic arguments to convince an audience of his intuitions about quality. The market isn't really concerned with that kind of talk. It's only concerned with that kind of talk insofar as it can use it for its aim of buying and selling.
Okay. And I'll direct the first question to you three. Let's start with you, Francis. Is it dangerous to put a price on everything? So can feeling or emotion be priced in the way that works of art are regularly priced?
Let me be clear. I mean, my feeling on this debate is that the question is the art market the best judge of good art? It's not saying that price hierarchies are the best judges of importance, i.e. this person made the most money, therefore he's the best artist. It's more about the openness of the market, the aggregator of all of the artists, and the inclusion of all, a democratic situation whereby any artist can rise to the top and can be part of the market. And that my argument here and now is that the market today is much more efficient in that all artists who are in it have a chance to be a part of history, unlike the old days when Van Gogh could disappear outside of his lifetime. So I'm not saying we should be pricing every emotion. What I'm saying is that we have a situation now where everybody has a chance to be a part of the art market and everybody has an opinion. I very much enjoyed hearing Matt casting his aspersions on what is apparently very popular art. And who is he to judge that? It should be a democratic situation, democratic judgment, and the art market is the greatest democratic judgment.
Good. Okay, can we take a couple more questions? Can we get a mic to that gentleman right in the corner at the back there? Let's start with you. Thanks. Yes.
My question was, if the art market is the best judge, what tools do the art market provide the viewer of art to actually appreciate the art?
Sorry, you'll have to say that last bit again.
Sorry,
what tools?
What tools do the if the art market is the best judge? Yeah. What tools do does the art market provide the viewer to actually appreciate the art?
Do you want to take that?
In the way that critics do provide some tools.
I think what's emerged from this debate is that actually, in terms of the sort of extremity of judgmentalism, it's the sort of 19th century attitudes of those against the motion that's emerging. What the art market actually does is what's good about it, it doesn't judge in many cases. These works are acquired, they're bought, and through incredible emotional and intellectual generosity, they're put on show. You can walk around this place and you judge it. The market actually isn't judging it at all. It's giving you the opportunity, and this is a tremendously democratic process, you as individuals to judge it. Whereas actually museums and critics, in a sense, are part of a culture of exclusivity. Actually, the market is putting this stuff on show. Charles Saatchi isn't judging this stuff, he's showing it to you. You can make up your own minds, and it's absolutely credible and admirable.
Okay, question there from the lady in the middle, who's had her hand up, and then I'll come to you in a minute.
The main contrast that I've heard this evening is between critics and the market. I was wondering if somebody can say something about the concept of audience, which of course is not the same as consumer or buyer, and the contrast between the audience of a certain genre of art, type of art, or piece of art as judge, and the market as judge.
Okay. Don't drag me into this. Richard, critics and audience. Where does the audience sit in this judgment?
Oh, well, I'm so glad you mentioned the word audience, because that seems to me absolutely at the centre of the whole thing. And an audience, to me, has very little to do with a few ultra-rich guys sitting in an auction room, not even raising the finger, actually, because somebody else is doing it for them, I think. Oddly enough, when I started as a writer out on the Evening Standard, I also had to do auction reports every now and again. Major auctions were, for a year or two, part of my brief. And at the age of about 23, I will never forget sashaying along to Christie's and sitting there and watching a Velázquez come up, a sublime portrait of Juan de Pareja. I'll always remember the name, Juan de Pareja. And it was being sold by an impoverished, or maybe not so impoverished, British aristocrat. And, I mean, in those days, this was, I think, 1970. In those days, nobody had ever heard of a painting fetching £1 million. It was just utterly kind of beyond the pale. And I just sat there and realized that the figure was mounting around me and it was shooting over £1 million. Everybody in the auction room was fainting, including me, because I realized that I had to rush out of the room, go to a public phone box. Do you remember public phone boxes? I had to go to a public phone box and go, hello, Evening Standard, copy. And they'd put me through to copy. And then I'd have to dictate this hysterical story about the fact that a work of art, for the first time ever in history, had gone over £1 million. But why I'm telling you this extraordinary story is because that is to do with a few guys who were there in the auction room, and they are not the audience for art. The audience for art, which I'm delighted to say, increases every year and widens every year. I mean, when I was young, I went to a museum. You didn't expect to see kids there at all. But now museums are full of kids. I'm sorry, I'm going on.
No, it's all right. I'm going to let Georgina respond. I'm going to let Georgina respond.
I really don't know that I can let Richard get away with that one, because the audience for that painting and for many others that have fetched colossal prices are in museums today, and they are available free to the public everywhere. Huge prices have been paid by the Getty and so on, these headline prices.
They're not necessarily available free, I'm sorry. No.
Well, it depends. In England they are. In America
but
they're not.
pretty much only in England.
Okay. Yes, but they're still available. So I really don't think that actually, I think you're in fact giving us an argument on our side, and I thank you very much for that argument, because it's a great help. The other thing is that I do think that this question of prices, okay, it was $1 million, but you do have to relativize, and I think one of the things that's about this debate is that it's not about the actual amounts of money, because the amounts of money when you were a cub reporter about 10 years ago are not...
I like that. Yeah. Very good.
Those are now very much larger. Forbes used to list millionaires, today they list billionaires. So the amounts of money are very much, the sums are very much greater. And I think that's as well. When you think that Abramovich has spent $1 billion on Eclipse, his yacht, I think that also relativizes the price of art.
Yeah, I can't really think about that.
Well, we'll come on to boats afterwards. There was a lady over there who had a question. I'm going to go to her, and then one more I think we can squeeze in.
Thank you. My question is for Mr. Cook as well. One of the issues that the debate seems to have been struggling with is if the market isn't the best judge or a good judge, then what is? Mr. Cook, you've suggested that a love for the work itself is the best judge, but that to me seems to recall the days when private patronage dictated that only a certain types of forms managed to reach what is now exhibited in museums, and that the diversity of forms that dominate the market now just kind of disappeared. What do you say to that, Mr. Cook? And for the rest of the panel against the motion, what is an alternative judge for good art?
Okay. What's the alternative to the market?
Well, it's a question which is only suggested by the proposal. Of course, it's not that one aggregate is maybe good or bad, or how about another aggregate. The point is that it's a far more subtle and massive aggregate and includes time as well as space. So, this consensus is arrived at over eternities, immense swathes of time. It's just that the market doesn't really play a role in it. The market is really neutral as far as those kind of judgments are concerned. It's arbitrary what the market says about quality. Quality judgments are made by maybe critics sometimes, but in many eras critics don't even exist, or even when they do exist, they don't have much of a voice. They talk to other people who are weirdly educated or frowning or chin stroking. They don't really have much impact on many people's lives. So it's a sort of false dichotomy that if not the market, what else?
Okay.
The discussion is not about is the art market or are art critics the best? It's the art market is the best at deciding quality. And there's just a fallacy in there because the market isn't really anything to do with quality.
Okay, I'm going to take one more from this gentleman here who's been waiting for a while, and then we're going to have our closing statements from the panel.
So if we're to argue that the art market is the best judge of good art, and you're saying that in the long term the art market is the best judge, and with the list of artists given, we're talking centuries, and you claim that galleries are too slow, then surely the best judge must be well-educated and well-trained critics plural and not a singular person's opinion?
Thank you. Very well said. Now,